Hello and welcome to season 4 of Own Your Divine Light show. Today our topic is Accelerate Ascension During Chaos and Pandemic, and I am Isla Serena Miller, which is the magical name that I am using now of Janet, and I'm stepping into that more and more. We've been going through a lot in the past year and a half, and it's feeling like things are lifting, and yet there is still so much on the horizon that is unknown, and all that we have been going through are here to help us create a new way of being. And today I have an amazing guest, an extraordinary healer, visionary, scientist, Susan Mason Abbs. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Janet. It's lovely to be here.
It's wonderful to have you. And let me tell you more about Susan. Susan is also the founder of the Magical Life Institute and creator of the Inner Journey Alchemy process. Having healed chronic illness in herself and embarking on a path of self-exploration, Susan now supports others who are stressed with challenging life and or health situations to discover that they have what it takes to heal, grow, and expand into their true self. A former forensic biologist, Susan is passionate about living a conscious lifestyle of personal responsibility that reestablishes the natural order of our world and honors the truth of who we really are. And you can connect with Susan on the Magical Life Institute.com and also her Facebook group, which is also Medical Life Institute on Facebook, at Facebook. No, Magical, excuse me.
Magical.
It's my, sorry about that. It's my typo. And welcome, Susan, again. I am so thrilled to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, Susan, your work is amazing and it's very comprehensive and it reaches depths of the unconsciousness that reveals these unconscious habitual beliefs that we all have and these learned patterns of being and brings them into light and to have them transformed and transmuted into the higher ways of being. So, I've been in your program and I'm experiencing your program. So I am a recipient of a lot of this clarity and unfolding because, it's important to work with others and you can't always stay in your own thoughts. And does that explanation encapsulate your program? Does that sound like it?
I think so. I sort of summarize the program as, the starting point being when we show up as a body, our human self, and we believe that we have a soul, or many of us believe that. So we begin as bodies that have souls. And during the course of the program, we go from being a body that has a soul into living as a soul that has a body. So really switching it around from that three-dimensional conditioned mindset of what it means to be alive, to be human, and what our actual potential is. So going from that limited expression into our infinite, eternal, divine selves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. And I love that you break it up into 3 phases. And so if people want to join it just for one, then it's okay. I mean, it's best to do all of them. So if you can't do all of them like at the same time, you could do the first one, wait a bit, then do the second, right? And it's really well designed so that you can do it at your leisure as you feel called to do the work, like go through that first part, do it as much as you can. And then if you're not ready for the next, take the time. But I highly recommend to do the whole thing because I think it's really the way to go because you're getting the fullness of the program. You're getting the full design, and I just, it's a great thing. So
Thank you.
Yeah, so I know one thing that we always talk about stress and, well, what's going on in the world. I mean, the whole world is in like a stress level that's ridiculous right now. I mean, all of us. And, no one knows what's going to happen next. And so this whole chaos that's going around us, it impacts us, and it impacts this ascension work that we're doing. And that's part of the agenda of what's going on in the world. And I'm not getting political, but it is definitely there. And if you are aware of that, then it's something to just, identify it. And
Right.
so what do you see when you work with stress of people? How do you approach it? What's your, let's hear your take on this.
Well, like everything, it's a multidimensional thing. So to try and deliver multidimensional information, I think it's always best to start in a linear space and then allow that to become magically entwined. So one of the key things about stress is people think, oh, I'm stressed out. Yeah, it's really nothing. I'm going to go, have a coffee, have a donut, go out for dinner, whatever it might be, right? Those outlets that we use in the spiritual community, those outlets can be excess meditation, which takes you out of the space of meditating for positive, healing, connecting time into escapism, right? So whatever our means of leaving the stress state, we tend to think it's just about our emotional and our mental stress. But the body responds physically to stress. And we've all lately particularly been hearing about the fight or flight response. And fight or flight, it doesn't matter whether it's the saber-toothed tiger waiting to jump out at you, or, oh my God, I've been locked down in my house for way too long, right? Or, I can't pay my bills, or how am I going to continue, right? It really doesn't matter what the stressor is. Nutrition can be stress, right? Inadequate nutrition, toxicity is stress. Electromagnetic stress, all of it.
Oh yeah, we have so much on us.
Yeah, so all of those things are stressors on the body and the mind. So physically, biochemically, the body responds pretty much the same way in that fight or flight response. Your heart rate goes up, your respiratory rate goes up, your insulin levels go up to increase your blood sugar. All those things, blood clotting factors are increased so that if you're injured in the fight or the flight, so we've got oxygen and blood sugar and all those things operating to help us in the fight or flight. And then those things that the body does to sustain life that aren't crucial in the moment responses, like digestion or immune function or detoxification, all of that's taken offline. So let's meander down that road a little bit. Have you heard of anyone in your world that has digestive dysfunction?
Sure.
Or cardiac issues?
Oh yeah.
Or blood sugar issues, or immune suppression? All of those things. And, medically, that's borne out in the statistics, and, American Medical Association and other medical bodies have said as much as 90% of all illness, like catch that for a minute, 90% of all illness has its roots in stress.
Yep.
So stress is way bigger than what we think it is. So then fast forward into a pandemic where our lives are completely turned upside down. And again, like you were saying, it's not about the debate around what is going on or has gone on in some places. The bottom line is when we feel threatened in any way, shape, or form, we go into the stress response, otherwise referred to as the fear response.
Mm-hmm.
As we feel threatened, we're in fear.
Sure.
And there's a difference between fear and danger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, fear is something that doesn't even exist yet.
Mm.
Danger is, there's the saber-toothed tiger. It's 10 feet away from me.
Yeah.
I'm dinner, right?
And-
That's danger.
yeah.
But this fear response continues the stress response
Mm.
ad infinitum. So there's never a rest. So the immune system continues to be suppressed. Respiratory rates are still elevated. You know, everything's working harder in the areas that you need
Yeah.
in order to survive that fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the things that are taken offline stay offline.
Mm.
So that doesn't necessarily serve our physical body. And then when you start to take that out, to start to consider things like our ascension, you know, a much more spiritually oriented thing, how do we increase the vibratory frequency of our human form when we're trapped in stress and fear? It doesn't, you know, it's like poles of the magnet, you know, that repel each other.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
yeah,
that's a lot of the reason that it's going on, to purposely do that.
well, and can I turn it around a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
You know how I like to look at things from
Yeah. And it's
upside
good.
down and backwards and inside out. Um, so yes, it's happening. On the one level,
That's
we
a
can
level. Yeah.
see it happening. We can see people under fear. We can see the dysfunction. We can see the trauma and the real, you know, in addition to the infection and the results of that, the collateral damage, you know, the mental health stuff, all of those things. So that's all of what's happening out of it. But where's the opportunity in that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because our lives have really gone under the microscope. You know, you can't just, oh, I'm going to go to the gym, or, oh, I'm going to go have dinner with friends, you know, that outer distraction.
Mm-hmm.
We've been pulled right in to the core of our existence,
Mm-hmm.
into our homes, and ultimately the opportunity to be right in with ourselves. So we can't run from ourselves. We can't run from those stressors that, you know, because so many of our stressors exist only in our mind, you know. You know, that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not safe, I'm not loved, all of those things, right? So the opportunity has been to, I feel, has really been to have permission to stop all the running around and all the distraction and actually sit with our fears.
Mm-hmm.
The real fears, you know, that are in our faces every day, whether that's a limiting belief like I'm not worthy, or, you know, I don't like what I do in my life, I'm not happy with these relationships. You know, when you're always running, you don't see that. I had a doctor tell me once, when I was in, you know, the doctor's office with my kids, and she said to me, you know, children can't bond to a moving target.
Oh, that's very good.
I thought it was great, and it shifted something in me.
Mm.
And when, you know, our souls can't connect to us we can't hear spirit when we're moving targets.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah. Mhm.
So the opportunity, yes, I get what you've said about that was the intention, was to create fear and so on. On some level, that's actually, I believe, what's going on. And it's in the creation of that fear that we can become consciously aware of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have a choice to consciously face it and be with it and sit with it and alchemize it and learn from it and grow from it. So
Yeah, that's the biggest hurdle of this whole event, that some people can really sit and go, okay, I really want to do this right now because I've always wanted to. And the others are like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go down that road. You know, that's too scary. That's too painful. And I just don't really care, you know?
yeah.
And then others are like, well, I'm sick and I don't feel well and I can't. So yeah, there's a lot of that. So, and not to be doom and gloom, but um, so the ways to release the stress. So let's go into the positive. So I know they talk about meditation, but there's so many ways to meditate today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like not the cookie cutter way it used to be, you know, right?
Well, you can meditate on your treadmill.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think one of the gifts that I have received and expanded in my experience is presence.
Yeah.
You know, that to sit in my space and just be present. You know, it's not a concept anymore. When you know, you have permission to sit and do nothing if you want to, because you can't go out or couldn't. And just to be here, watching the leaves, feeling the breeze, you know, looking at a house plant, smelling an essential oil, listening to beautiful music, or even noticing what is beautiful music to you now. Has that shifted?
Oh yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
and really allowing ourselves to take deeper responsibility for who we are and how we live.
Yeah.
I really feel like that's one of the big opportunities that has had space created for it to stop.
Yeah, we're meant to become like step into our full maturity, and
Mhm.
and taking that responsibility is like, oh, whoa. You know, it's a kind of a shocker because we've been always pushing it off on everyone else. Where right now, it's all on us individually.
Mhm.
We are up to each of our decisions, choices. It really pushes us right now to be who we're meant to be.
Yeah.
And what is your belief system and what do you feel is right for you? Are you giving it away or are you choosing consciously?
Mhm.
Are you doing it out of fear or are you doing it because you have a belief that you, of one reason to do it or not to do it,
Mhm.
you know, or that you never do it, you know, that you're never going to go down that other path that everyone is advising, you know.
Mhm.
It's a lot and it takes a lot of sovereignty, that big word, which I used to like, what does that word mean? Sovereignty is like the buzzword of the 2020s right now.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And you know, it's interesting because in our isolation, we've experienced ourselves as far more separate than we've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
You know, particularly like I live alone.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I have pets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, you know, there's a real physical separation.
Yes. Yes.
Yet I feel more connected than ever.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah.
And I would attribute at least some of that to the giving myself permission to listen more deeply, to feel more deeply, and to expand
Mhm.
in ways that I had not been giving myself permission, and indulging myself a little bit more. I don't have clients today, so I'm not rushing off anywhere. So do I need to shower in the norm and do all my morning things
Yeah.
in that same order that I always do if I'm rushing around doing things? No, there is,
Choice.
we can create new things in
Yeah.
the face of all of this.
I love that. I do the same thing. I will wake up and
Mhm.
go, well, is this a day to dress, shower, makeup? What do I want? And
Yeah.
I'll usually just go, yeah, whatever I feel like that's going to happen. So then if I go downstairs and I don't get dressed, well, that's the end of that. And then if I do get dressed and I don't put on makeup, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. Who cares? It's the freedom. I mean, guys are going to go, so what? Well, for us, it's important stuff. But but it's nice to have that freedom. It really is. It's a freedom. So we're getting a new kind of freedom. It's a new kind of freedom, isn't it?
I would say so. Yeah, because it's been born um, through choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not to say there isn't tons of stress and challenge going on out there. I mean, I'm not talking about that spiritual bypassing of I'm
No,
going to
not
avoid all the challenges
all that.
that are very real in my physical life. I'm not talking about that. Our conversation here is really, to accelerate that ascension journey through these chaotic times during this pandemic. That acceleration really rides on the wave of all that's seemingly wrong in the world.
And we're talking about empowerment. What can you do to empower yourself at this time in your own space?
Mhm.
How can you bring that in?
You know,
Genuine.
it's awareness, first of all,
Mhm.
to witness the things that are happening right before you start worrying,
Mm,
whether
yeah.
it's I'm watching mainstream media and I'm getting caught in that energetic vibration, or I'm watching so many videos on the other end of that spectrum
Yep.
that I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen to the world, right? It doesn't
That is
matter
the
which
truth.
side,
That is the
you
truth.
know?
Right? Yep. I've been on both, but well, mostly on the other one, not
Yeah.
mainstream.
And both of those polarities engender fear,
They
potentially.
do. They definitely do.
Potentially. They don't have
They,
to,
no, but if
but
yeah, yeah.
mhm.
When you first hear it, you're like, oh, but then you have to think, like you've got to step away and say, okay,
Yeah.
do I
Oh,
really believe all that? Do I really feel that? Do I feel it? It's really the feeling. Do I feel it? Right? It's
and
like,
that's the key I was just going to speak to, because it's really easy to look at an agenda, a narrative, the story that's coming from whichever group is speaking that story, and um, attach to it and
mm-hmm.
believe that
Oh,
it's
sure,
true.
sure.
And on either end, the potential for that is the same.
It definitely is.
And both ends of that spectrum feel that they're right.
Of course. Yeah.
Now, I think at some point, once you've got whatever level of awareness you're looking for on either end of those spectrums or that spectrum, then you can just stop
Mm-hmm.
and be present with yourself.
Yes.
And I've asked myself this many times during this era, and that is, what is it that you really believe?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that I really am feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it that I really see and know in my higher
No.
visioning self?
Yeah.
What is it that I know is true?
Mm-hmm.
That's different than, oh, this article says this and this person saw
Oh yeah.
that,
Oh yeah. I totally identify with.
very different.
Yeah.
And I want to have an awareness of all of it. I don't need the nitty gritty details of all of it. I've been down those rabbit holes.
Yep.
Um, and and in that space of everything happens for us,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately in our soul's growth and evolution. Um, I choose to step back and look at everything that potentially freaks me out
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and ask, how can this be working for me and
Mm.
for the world and for humanity and for whatever is, according to the divine plan, meant to be experienced and unfolding. So, as you know, I am not I am not a lover of the status quo.
Right. Right.
And I guess it's both my spiritual and my scientific background that have me asking questions, you know, from many different perspectives.
Mm-hmm. And you've
So,
also, been witness to a lot of different perspectives in your life, and
mhm,
that really helps with that.
mhm,
It's a positive thing. And yeah, I feel the same though when you say looking at the different spectrums of things. I definitely have been doing this knowing part, that like
mhm,
that inner knowing. It's not just thinking about something, it's just knowing that does not ring true. That is not really going to happen. I'm
mhm.
not feeling it. I'm not seeing it in my, I try to visualize a future like that. And it's just not happening. And I
Right.
think, and we also can manifest as well. So if you visualize it and you're like, oh, that's really going to happen, and you really believe it, you can draw that to you, and then you are creating your reality there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we can create whatever reality we want.
And then we
And
can,
that's, I mean, I think that's the thing, right? You can talk about ascension. And what is ascension really? We're climbing that ladder in vibration, in consciousness, whatever that means to you. Um, and, if it's all vibration, I know for myself, I think I've experienced the vibration of fear in a whole new way
oh yeah,
during all of this.
yeah.
And I've experienced the vibration of peace, inner peace.
Mm-hmm.
I've experienced the vibration of, I don't even know how to put it, I don't want to hear that, that sort
Like
of
you're filled up.
denial,
I've had enough. I've had enough.
that, and that feeling in the body that just says, stop, enough
Exactly.
is enough.
Yeah.
Or, wow, I can really open into that
Mm, yes.
and expand into that, like, and I can expand into both sides of it. I can expand into the part that originally I was fearing, and I can expand into the part that felt almost too good to be true,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and to hold both of those,
Yeah.
and that, when I said earlier, we've experienced so much amplified separation, but then to come into that space and invite those opposites to come in and hold them both.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not saying that to be trite. This is something I've been practicing
Mm-hmm.
this has been one of those ways I feel I've been supporting myself to continue on that. I don't even know if I would call it ascension in my own daily life, but I guess that is the term that's being used. to play with that. Where's my resistance to acknowledging how afraid I am? Where's my resistance to acknowledging the true divine potential of our world?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Both of those require a step,
Yeah.
you know, and both of them can be scary to the human mind,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes. Yes.
So,
Sure.
so that's just becoming more conscious and being willing to be present and see it and feel it without judging it,
Yeah.
without even necessarily defining it, right? Because when we're truly in presence, it just is stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's like you feel it, you resonate with it, you can literally embody it. And that's when you know that that's a truth for you. Like you can't say it's for everybody, but it's for you.
No, absolutely. And I think that's one of the hugest gifts um, that I've received during this time.
Mhm.
And that idea of, you know, the chaos. I mean, order arises out of chaos. You know, creative, artistic people have typically spaces that are absolute disaster areas,
Yep.
you know, because the creativity arises out of that. And thus the order comes out of that. And I think the way I mentioned it to you before is I really see that the chaos is preceding our evolution,
Sure.
because
Oh,
I really believe that our ascension and our evolution are the same thing,
mm-hmm.
you know, evolving into a higher consciousness, ascending that energetic quantum, whatever sort of ladder.
I just heard something really, really interesting today. And this is like not this is going to be a little it's not really off topic, but it talks about this woman is a channel, young woman. She got this information that we are being helped with our DNA by the good galactics. Let's put it. If you believe in there's others besides us, which I do in this universe. So you have to open your mind to this, those who are willing to hear it. And if you're not, that's okay. You're not meant to. But that they are putting in a DNA that they've started doing since the 1950s into the women. And it's got to be attached to the X chromosome. And so because of that, all the children get the X chromosome, man or woman. So the woman has to bring it through and it goes to the children. And so since the 50s, we have been given an accelerated DNA to help us move into the next level. And this is not manipulation. This is something that we had to have some help with, they said, to get us past these things that were holding us back. And these are the galactics that are here to help us move into the next levels of our consciousness. And that the children coming up now are really starting to have those developed DNA, and that we need to really protect our children that are coming in, because all those like all the ism, like the autism and all that kind of thing that's been rampant, it's because these children, their DNA has been accelerated from all the evolution that's been going on since the 50s. I thought it was fascinating. I was like, wow, do I believe that? Do I? Now that's, so you've got to look at it. Do I believe that? Well, I don't know yet. It's a whole new concept. It's something, first time I heard it from anywhere, any source. And, and it's something you've got to go to your heart with and say, wow. But it was interesting to hear something like that.
Absolutely.
Because we supposedly were not, we were designed hybrids. That's what they say. If you believe that part. We are made by source, and yet source has allowed others to help us become who we're meant to be. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly open to those sorts of ideas for sure. I've had my own experiences that would attest to that.
Mm,
Um,
interesting.
and I also kind of step a little bit back at the same time, because we can only interpret the significance of those things from perception of the consciousness that we are. So my human self has learned how to perceive things. And I remember very specifically when I was in university and I took a first year anthropology course, and the word anthropomorphic was used all the time. And I just love the word anthropomorphic. It just sounds awesome. But the bottom line is viewing things through the eyes of your own culture, or through the eyes of, you know, one particular group. And, you know, I've been really present with the idea that we really project our perception of things on other things. You know, like, do I know what the experience of the earthworm is as it's squirming around in the puddle? You
Right.
know, like,
Yeah.
I used to stop and pick that earthworm up and put it on the grass.
Oh,
Oh yeah. And I did that from a place of
love.
love, and I didn't want to, you know, the poor earthworm.
It could
But
get stepped on.
no,
It could get
that
stepped on.
earthworm, just like the butterfly, if I go help the butterfly to get out of the chrysalis, it will never fly.
No, no.
And just because that earthworm may drown in the water, maybe that's exactly what it's meant to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But from that anthropomorphic, you know, perspective, you know, I'm saying what's significant or what's not. So when you start speaking about, and I sort of try and keep this perspective in my mind whenever I'm hearing, you know, things like this. I mean, it sounds fascinating to me, and I love the idea that we're being assisted by galactic beings, and I love the idea that, you know, I have a star family, and, you know, and I've had experiences to show me in my visceral form that that's actually, you know, something I've experienced. But to put it all in that bigger, fuller perspective and consciousness, I can't really attach to what does it mean. You know what I mean? Do you get that?
Yep, 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 yep.
And
You
I mean,
don't know.
these kids that are showing up who are, you know, viewed as, you know, somehow broken, I feel are just the hugest gift to this world, and that we have no way to interpret the gift that they are necessarily. Maybe there are those who have the ability to really access that, but I firmly believe none of us are broken in that way.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. It's because we're born perfect. As we say, we're born perfect. Our body thinks we're perfect, whether we're
Until we tell it otherwise.
exactly, exactly. We tell ourselves how to act. We tell them. If we say, "Oh, I don't feel good," it's going to give you what you want. And it's a hard thing to probably even believe sometimes. And that's another belief. You could believe that or not.
Mhm.
To me, that makes so much sense. That's how
Yeah.
much power we have, but we don't even know all that because we've been, we let the middleman run our show. Now
Yeah.
we're
And I think our power far exceeds, I truly believe our power and our innate true nature far exceeds anything that 99.999% of humanity has ever conceptualized.
yeah, well, we haven't really been allowed to explore it yet. We've been kept down basically
Right. And through the having been kept down of the last year and a half, a lot of people have had that space.
yeah, so the kept
That's,
down part is kind of backfired and made it
yeah, it's kept down has limited us, and then simultaneously the keeping down has opened new doorways to within.
Yeah.
for that awakening and so on.
Yeah, which is the gift of this whole thing, which we talk about.
Mhm.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
I mentioned it in other shows, but there is the gifts of it is amazing. And so, you know, the chaos preceding evolution is beautiful. To say that you have to have the chaos. So this is what we're in, the chaos, before we evolve into the next level of who we're meant to be.
Exactly. In that chaos, when we're swirling around, you know, in the tornado, I mean, and everybody uses that term of like being the eye of the storm. And I think gradually, and maybe this can even be part of that path of ascension, to, you know, like originally be totally on the outer edges of that tornado, just totally flailing around, in reaction, having no control, and then gradually sort of moving within to that eye of the storm place where we can just breathe and watch it all.
I think we're getting there. I think we're almost there. I think we're
I
right
think
there.
a lot of people
The
are there.
eye. I think we're entering the eye now, like right now.
Mhm.
I really, that's a great analogy. I never thought of it that way. But
It's so much easier to breathe in the chaos
Mhm.
from the eye of the storm
Oh
than
yeah.
it is to be in that space, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
And you know, that riding that wave gives us the opportunity to build those muscles,
Yep.
to play in the consciousness field, um, and begin to know ourselves, rather, and know our experience and know our feelings, and to know our likes and our dislikes and our dreams and all of that, as opposed to believing it because we've either been told that, you know, oh, you're so good at this. Well, I don't like that. So, you know, I mean, and all that collective programming,
Mm.
familial programming, conditioning, whatever you want to call it, to be able to move from that conditioned reaction space into a knowing, a higher knowing, not the, oh, I know that, you know, not that kind of space.
It's a visceral no.
To know,
Yeah. It's
to
like a
know
whole
without
body no.
needing proof,
It's a
I
whole
guess.
body knowing. I guess I see it as like a whole body knowing.
Yeah.
Like you've come to that, like we talk about coming into wholeness. I was just talking about that with the divine masculine, divine feminine.
Yeah.
And the big perspective is to look at the wholeness of it, the two, bring us into the oneness, to
Right.
bring us into that fullness of who we're meant to be. And
Mhm.
you're talking about that again in another way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wholeness. So exciting. And you know, I like when I know we were talking and you mentioned cosmic humor the other day, and I was laughing. I said, so do you think this is cosmic humor that we're in?
I think it all is. You know, I don't know.
It's not good humor necessarily, but it's universal version of humor. Maybe
Well,
we're not going to laugh that hard at it, but
yeah, I
yes and no.
had an experience once which changed me forever. And it was that moment, you know, you hear about the cosmic joke.
Mm-hmm.
And in this moment, you know, of absolute clarity and sight and knowingness that completely defies everything that you would believe about the world in that instant.
Yep. Yep.
All I could, like, the laughter that came out of my body was just ridiculous. It was incredibly wild. And I've looked back at that in times when I'm getting super stressed, or I have, you know, I can see if I keep going this way, I'm going to be a wreck.
Yeah.
To anchor back to that, because I viscerally felt everything that you believe and everything that you know and everything that you've ever thought was right or true. It was, I knew in my body, I felt that absolute oneness with everything, that everything's an illusion. And of course, that's a slippery slope, right? You can go from that instant of knowing that into some sort of existential crisis, which I think is a big part of what's going on in the chaos for people. I think there is this juxtaposition between what we've known, what we're experiencing, and what we thought was our future.
Oh,
And
definitely.
you know, I think what the world has thought our futures were supposed to be is really being called out in sort of a mini cosmic joke experience of like, what's it all for?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Kinda. I'm thinking about like, well, I hear about the history, our world's history is nothing. The truth of what we've been getting is nothing to what the real truth is. And I have been reading and learning so many different ways that the world is showing up to people that have really delved into it in a whole other way. And it's just mind blowing how opposite of what we have been taught is what our world was meant to be, and how it was at one time. And there were periods that it was there, and then it was gone, and then it was there, and then it was gone. We've been taken into, we've gotten to it, and it's been taken away. We've gotten to it, and it's been taken away. And it's hard to imagine that it was taken away, but somehow it was.
Yeah. And you know, that's one of the things that I am most deeply connected to and committed to, is reestablishing what that natural order is for ourselves, for the universe, even. You know, and that's really a lot of what I'm getting into in the program, is helping people get back to what's their true nature, as opposed to, you know, and beyond the limited self. So, but it all starts in here.
So how do you see our true nature? That's an easy question, isn't it?
I see our true nature as divine, and eternal, and unlimited. You know, and I really feel from my own experiences with some of this, I feel like, you know, there's gradations. You know, I've had those experiences of knowing myself as a non-physical ball of energetic consciousness, whizzing around the universe, or the multiverse, whatever that is. And I've experienced those moments of absolute clarity that this body is temporary and it's not who I am, and all the things in between that. And I think our true nature is to be all of that. And to be all of that consciously, so that we can each connect into that true power, and to, you know, to have the experience of being sick, if that's what we're meant to experience, to have the experience of being beautiful, or what the world would deem, you know, either beautiful or ugly or shameful, or, you know, experiences of guilt and anger and joy and bliss and humor and all of it. Like, could we just allow ourselves to, you know, if we are divine beings in human form, what if we just allowed the divine to flow through us, to experience life in a physical body in its fullest capacity? And if we got to that, then everything is divine. And again, can take you into that existential crisis place, which, you know, really I butted up against in forensic science because, you know, where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
You know, the crime is divine, or is it? You know, that can be a philosophical rabbit hole, you know, to go down too. But I believe our divine, our true nature is to embrace it all, to feel it all, to honor it all, to love it all. But you can't do that until you've felt it all. You know,
Yep.
feel the anger, feel the fear, you know, all of that. And of course, I was raised in that world of, you know, good girls don't get angry. And that didn't work too well because I didn't get angry for a really, really long time.
Yep.
And I don't even know if anyone actually ever said it to me outright. It was just a given. And a lot of those beliefs are like that. But to be able to sit and witness the story, see how it impacted me, see all the choices I didn't make and the choices I did make and the limitation and the fear of it, I go, wow, like how cool is that? You know,
that's what I think, that's where we're at right now, that you can say that it's like a life review. We're doing it here in consciousness now.
exactly.
We're doing it in
And
consciousness.
and it's bringing the consciousness to all of that accelerates our ascension, in my opinion.
That so much. Yeah. I really, that's a great wisdom, a great knowing to get to that. And I think it's what we're meant to do. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to come to that.
Well, it feels like what I'm meant to do.
Well, yeah. And I mean, for me, I feel that's really a good, for me too. I love that thought because I'm working towards that. Absolutely. I mean, I'm, you know, to put words like you do all the time, I can't get to all those words like you do, but you make it clear. The clarity is wonderful that you can bring that to everyone to hear that. And they're like, oh, wow. You know,
Yeah,
like
that's one of the things that I really love about working with people is that moment when they go, oh, you know, wow, if I look at this a little different,
yeah,
then I have permission to be
you shift
angry.
everything. You shift everything. And it can be just a small little understanding, but it just rocks your whole world basically. And everything just crumbles. The old stuff is crumbling. It's like, oh, it was so silly, wasn't it? But we didn't know at the time because we only know what we know when we're ready to know it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in that instant of that awareness and the tear falls, and, you know, and we now know that biochemically, that one little tear rolling down our face changes our entire chemistry.
It does. It's very powerful. It's very powerful because I knew I
And
couldn't do it when I was younger. Couldn't do it. But once I
oh,
started healing myself and working with those shadow bits and all that, understanding like you just brought about and feeling it all, good. And now I can well up at the drop of a hat.
yeah.
It's like I can cry happy and I can cry sad. Either way, it doesn't really matter. It's however you feel that emotion and however it makes you react to it. Your body reacts.
So the piece that I really love about where we can, you know, if we're accelerating that ascension, you know, what is the next step? You know, and I have vision of what that, you know, could look like. And I really, you know, we have these innate gifts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Greg Braden said in, I can't remember, a video that I have of him anyway, he said, our technologies are only showing us what we are innately capable of. And I think I saw that back in like 2002, 2003. And immediately I was like, absolutely. Our cell phones, now what they've evolved into, I can send an image anywhere in the world. I can send a text message anywhere in the world. I can access any information instantly.
And I'm going to change that a little because it's a caveat I'll add on. It's what we've been allowed to get to also.
Well, it's what they've allowed and we've accepted.
Well, we didn't know at the time.
No, but that's part of the journey, right? I mean, I've said to more than one client, I think our journey as humans to some degree is come in as love,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
forget your love, be told and learn that you're not love, till you get to the point where you're so upset and hurt and broken from the idea of not being love, that we allow that part of us to emerge, to remind us that we are love. Well, not even to remind us, but to get that part back.
Yes.
So come in as this, forget it all, remember it all, and live it as that. And yeah, we came in, we've lost it as a collective humanity,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, and that's, I feel like the other piece of this pandemic and the lockdown, people have had enough.
Oh, definitely.
In a lot of
Goodness.
instances.
I feel so many people have had enough. I mean, it's starting to reach a real point, I can almost feel the buildup of the energy now. I feel it myself, but I can just feel it in the ethers.
So the as above, so below, right? As we as individuals say, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose a new way. I'm going to learn a new way. I don't care what it takes. As we as individuals do that, then we as communities can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And we as nations can do that. And then we as a humanity, as a member of a galactic community, can do that.
Yeah. All right. That's so true. I get chills. That was, oh my goodness, that's so true. So true. I mean, that I fully resonate with that thought.
Yeah, because I struggle sometimes, and I know we probably need to be wrapping up here, but
yeah, we are going to. I was just letting you finish your thought, and because it's been such a beautiful esoteric journey we've been on today, but it's so wonderful because it's real. It's the truth of what we're going through. I mean, this is where we are meant to be at this point.
And I think the journey out of the chaos and the confusion begins with seeing our stress, acknowledging our fear, embracing it, taking responsibility for it, as opposed to blaming, blaming the situation for how terrible everything is. And really stepping into the potential.
Yeah, that's it. That's it now. That's where we're at.
We've
gone through all the chaos.
Yeah, and none of that's to take away from all the real heartache that's been out there and experienced by many, 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 many people.
Yeah.
I truly honor that, and in my world, that is part of the journey, part of ultimately, after we've gone through it all, ultimately part of the blessing.
Yeah, Yeah. Okay. So I usually ask, there's two more little questions and then you can talk about what your offer is too. But I always say, what did you get as a benefit from this chaos that we've been going through in the tumultuous times that we're going through?
What did I benefit
Benefit.
personally? I actually, the permission from outside to be completely within felt far more powerful than I would have anticipated.
Mm,
You know, and I said to someone at the beginning of all of this, you know, it's like, well, I live by myself
mhm,
and, you know, so I'm fairly on my own anyway. And sometimes I felt like I should show up as a little bit more extroverted in the world. But my nature was at that time in my journey was to be within.
mhm.
So there was this really interesting permission I got from the world. So I
Ah,
said to friends, it's like, you know, I've been living like this for a long time and now you've all caught up with me. Kind of, so that was a powerful awareness for me. Um, and one of the other things I got was, you know, um, my whole business shifted because I used to see people in person as well as doing, you know, work at a distance,
yeah.
where everybody now is at a distance. So that's been also a big transformation in how I live. Um, and I think well, not think, I know that my intuition has transformed tremendously. And I have learned to listen in ways that I would discount before.
Yeah.
And it was one thing after another, whether I would have the thought and then the thing or the person would show up with it, or the phone call would come, whatever little thing, or an intuition regarding a client situation, you know, in a session where I would say something consistently now that's coming back. And that's been a lot of fun
Mm,
because it's deepened and it's expanded more than ever for me. So, and also mm, learning to just accept more,
yeah.
learning to accept others more, to witness myself wanting to be right about those things that could be controversial in the world. And I don't need to be right anymore,
Mm,
you know, or at least I don't feel that, you know, I'm not going to fight for that bone. We're all here. We all have a journey. We're all entitled to our journeys. And if we all share our journeys,
mhm.
then others, you know, I learned something from you, you learned something from me, and so on and so on and so on. And we can make aware choices. So I've really expanded into that during this pandemic time.
That's
So
powerful.
more peace in
Oh,
that. Yeah.
well, I think that sounds like a beautiful journey that you've been on. I mean, ultimately, it's a beautiful journey. And others, I'm sure, have shared it and they can go, yeah, now that she said that, permission is huge. To grant ourselves permission, we just don't do it.
Yeah.
So that was a great word. So any last message for the people that you can say for 2021? Anything you think they need to know that you haven't said yet? Something that just
I,
sticks out.
you know, I think it's just really important to trust.
Mm,
Trust ourselves, trust nature. You know, I I've learned so much about myself through nature
Mhm.
in the last year and a half. I mean, I've always felt a connection with, the forests and the water and so on, but just looking at how nature operates and witness how detached our lives have really become from nature.
Oh yeah.
And that I think to recover our true nature, we need to get back to nature.
So true. So true. That's a beautiful statement. And yeah, I remember traveling with girls when I was my first year, first nursing job, and I went to Europe for 6 weeks. And so we met girls from California, and they were saying, "Oh, we have the best nature in our state." And I'm like, "No, you don't. We do too." And they're like, "No, no, no. We got these amazing parks with the sequoias, and we got miles and miles and miles." And I'm like, "Ooh, I don't hardly even go out in nature. So what am I really trying to compete with these people? I come from this city." And I was like, she's right. They were really into the nature, and I'm a city girl. I grew up in the city. Now I'm not, but
Mhm.
at that time I had barely been out in a lot of, my parents were not hikers or any of that kind of thing.
Mhm.
It was
But
a
nature is in a bouquet of flowers
well, yes.
and
And
a
that,
house
that I
plants.
can say now I get all that, but at that time, no. But it's so interesting to look back and where like where I've come from, to like, wow, look at how nature does. Now I love just walking out in my backyard, watching the birds. That
In the first month of the pandemic, with all the shifting that happened as industry stopped and cars stopped being driven, and, seeing how powerfully nature started to
oh yeah,
recreate her balance, you
beautiful.
know, and the dolphins going back to the canals in Venice and all of those sorts of stories.
Incredible thing.
Um, it's like, there's that anthropomorphic thing. Like we think we have it all together and that we understand and that, that we have a right to, you know, this planet and whatever.
I don't
Yeah.
know if it was you, but I remember reading or seeing, or someone told me that at one point people were so locked up in their houses that the animals were walking down the middle of their street,
I
and they were
heard that.
looking in at the people like, who's in the box? Who's living in those cages?
I
It's
heard that too. It's like, ooh, we're the ones in the
we're
zoo.
the one in the cages and they're the ones out there free. It's like, wow, that is quite a conundrum to look
Mhm.
at and see it and go, wow, it's really us in the cages. So
Yeah.
we're breaking out of those cages now. So Susan, I know you have a special gift, a free gift and a special gift offer for the audience. So I'd love you
I
to
do. Yeah. There's a free download. It's called The Many Faces of Stress. And so there's a link for that. And I believe when you go to that link, there's also an opportunity to schedule a free 30-minute exploratory call with me.
That's beautiful.
So that's an opportunity as well. And then the other offer is a paid introductory session with me for Inner Journey Alchemy, which is, of course, just like it sounds, the inner journey and alchemizing that.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so that'll all be there.
Thank you so much. That is a beautiful, great, great offers, and I highly recommend it. And I know how much Susan is. You've heard her, so you can judge. You know who you're drawn to. You know who you're attracted to. No judging, just drawing. Just drawing from the heart. I said that word judge. I'm like, no, not judging. So I want to thank the audience. Thank you so much, all those that are listening, and hope that you've gotten anything special that you needed to get today. And we'd love to hear your feedback and your shares. So if there's comments you'd like to send us, always love to hear from you. And we'll send them to Susan, or you can go direct to Susan, whichever way it works for you. And Susan, I have to thank you so much. And your work is so incredible. And I know you have, what did I call you? I thank you for being a fearless forager of the unfolding of our limitless light. I was like, where did that come from? But I don't know. That's what I got. And I thought
Fearless forager. Okay.
I know, well, and I'm like, I looked it up. I'm like, forager. Well, it's a person who is finding things in nature, and you're talking about the natural way. And I'm like, oh, what a perfect, interesting word. And it just came into my, it just did. And I was like,
That's awesome.
perfect. So for being that fearless forager of the unfolding of our limitless light, and you softly, resolutely stream your divine light that bravely and steadfastly pursues and uncovers levels of forbidden knowledge of ourselves we could not do alone. So I want to thank you, and
Thank
a
you.
lot of gratitude for that too. And thank you so much for being here. And I am Isla Serona Miller, and I will see you all on the next episode.
Thank you.